This is an emergency alert. The FBI just warned of a major attack on the U.S. power grid. All right, this is big and this is critical. They just put out this official bulletin warning the American people that the power grid is at risk of a major attack, and they are specifically warning of renewable energies like solar power are going to be targeted the most in these attacks. All right, so we need to take these warnings serious because they could have preemptive knowledge of what's going on. Right, they could be telling us what's coming next. Right, this could be the informing part before the attack happens. Right, so you need to be getting prepared. You need to be getting ready really quick. Please just hit it up for me down there. It helps to get these warnings out so people know what's going on. All right, so let's dive into the details here. This is what's going on. An official FBI notice was just put out, and this notice is warning that there's been an expansion of attacks targeting the U.S. renewable energy industry. Right? They're saying that solar panels, wind farms, and all these different forms, these new forms that are coming online, they're saying they're extremely vulnerable, and there's been an increase of attacks, and we could have a big one because they are all connected and controlled by computer systems. Right? All of these renewables that are called, right, which are questionable at best whether they're renewable. Solar is great for off-grid capabilities, but it's not very reliable and steady for overall grid capabilities. Okay, but a lot of these solar and renewables are controlled by digital inverters. Okay, so the power that comes in to a solar panel, it is direct current. It's DC power. And the power that you and I use for all your electronics that you plug into the wall, right, that is AC power. That is alternating current, right? AC, DC. Okay, it's like the band. There's DC, AC, direct current, alternating current, right? And alternating current is what you need, and these inverters they convert the energy into the proper form, but they're also extremely vulnerable. The FBI is warning because they are computerized, and they are also most of the time connected to the internet for monitoring capabilities and to servers, all right, because they're monitoring the massive influx of power and trying to modulate it to keep it steady, okay, and to keep the correct current form. All right, so there's a lot of stuff going on in the background to get it, for solar at least, for the power to be usable for your home. All right, so they're worried that these electronics are going to be targeted in a major cyber attack. Right, that's what the FBI is warning, and they also have been giving examples of these threats that have already happened. Right, they're warning right here. I think this has just been revealed, right? Because I didn't know about this, and they are warning specifically about the electric grid in Virginia. That is what the FBI, they have mentioned Virginia multiple times under the threat scenario of this memo. All right, so they're warning that Virginia is extremely vulnerable. For some reason, they keep targeting and talking about Virginia in this memo, and they're saying that Virginia is trying to advance its wind and solar capabilities within the next few years, but they're saying that they are extremely vulnerable right now, right? So maybe they have preemptive knowledge that something is going to happen in Virginia and the DC area, right? They're also talking about the Washington Council of Government, right? And they're talking about this agreement that they had to install hundreds of thousands of solar rooftops, and they're saying that's vulnerable as well. So they're essentially warning the DC area in Virginia that they could be hit by a cyber attack. That's what this memo is saying. And they're saying that the more solar that they put up, the more vulnerable we are, right? So all these things are double-edged swords. Like, yes, we have energy from the sun, right? That's good. But there's a ton of downsides. Now it's vulnerable, and also the process to get these solar panels is more than questionable. Okay? These solar panels require a ton of cobalt, and the batteries require a ton of lithium. Okay? And these minerals are not easy to mine, and they are very destructive. Lithium strip mining is very destructive to the earth, and cobalt mining overseas in places like Africa is very, very hard and brutal, okay, on the people working there. It's not easy, and it's very bad conditions that they are working in, all right? It's very exploitative, to say the least, right? And that's the supply chain for these minerals. I've done entire videos showing things going on over there. It's brutal what's going on over there. Now, I've never shown anything crazy, but just showing like the lines of trucks, right? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of trucks, diesel trucks, dump trucks that are filled with minerals lined up to be shipped overseas to make solar panels to stop, to be green, right? This whole thing there's a disconnect here between somebody buying a solar panel, getting it, and the supply chain of it. People don't realize how extensive it is. And think about it, 1,000 diesel trucks all day long. This is all day. They're sitting there all day long. There's always a new guy showing up, and there's always a guy loading off all day long. This is steady. All day and all night. They sit there for a week just to load off, right? And they just have their trucks running the whole time, cranking the AC on, right? So that's what's going on. And they're saying that the solar structure in our country is extremely vulnerable. And they're warning the private sector that they need to be prepared and they need to be ready, and they're also giving them direct tips to be ready and to mitigate any of this damage. And this is a quote from the memo that was just released. It says the FBI is releasing this private industry notification to highlight how malicious cyber actors may seek to disrupt power generating operations, steal intellectual property, or ransom information critical for normal functionality to advance geopolitical motives or financial gain within the U.S. renewable energy industry. Right? So they're even saying geopolitical motives. Could be other countries doing this. There could be bad actors in the U.S. doing this. The thing with this stuff is that once these systems are connected, they are vulnerable. The second they hook them up to the internet, they are already it's over. It's over. These things are vulnerable, right? That's why we need analog systems inside the U.S. that are not connected. They're not digital at all, completely analog, and have their own systems that aren't connected to the internet at all, right? That's what we really need for a critical infrastructure. Even the monitoring, right? It all, they need to figure out, they already have ways to do this, right? To make it analog. It's just, there's money in this, right? There's always money in the next new thing, this solar stuff, all this renewable stuff. There's a ton of money to be made in this. All right, so sorry, I keep turning the air on and off over here because it's 95 degrees right now. All right, and I'm sitting in the shade. I got the car parked in the shade. It said it was 97 when I came out. It is so hot, and that's one of the main issues with solar. Is this is why I never got a big solar system for my RV, because it can't even turn the AC on. All right, and I've even stayed at a place that was completely on solar, and they didn't have an AC because it was too much of a initial draw. Right, it takes a lot of starting wattage to get a AC unit going. All right, that's why you hear. If you could see that on a graph, it would be, ramping up 10,000 watts, 20,000 watts, whatever it is, however big your unit is. Starting watts, it ramps up and then it levels off, and then levels off at 5,000 running watts or whatever it levels off to. Okay, so you can't get that starting wattage though from the solar. That's the problem. You can get it from an engine, from diesel, because you can stress an engine. You can put pressure on an engine. Right? It has moving parts. It's analog. There's parts moving, creating the pressure. Right? But so you can get that starting watt from it. But you can't put more pressure on the batteries. It either has the charge there or it doesn't. Right? And just like a generator, right? I lived off grid, just living off my generator for the past 3 years in my RV. Right? And we're back on our homestead now. And we got a bunch of chickens and stuff going. But that's what I was doing the past 3 years. It's just living off grid in my RV, traveling around boondocking. Because I just like being out in the woods. I like being off grid. I like being away from everything. Where it's peaceful, right? I like that. But there were times where I would overload the generator, right? And it would just turn off sometimes because it can stretch. But if you turn on the AC, you turn on the microwave, the TV's on, all these things at the same time, you can't turn them all on at the same time. You can only do like one at a time. Right? You got to turn the AC on if you want the microwave on. So, and I did that a couple times and overloaded my generator, and it stops generating power, right? It stays on, but it doesn't generate any more power. So get yourself prepared, get yourself a generator, right? It's critical. And it just gives you a peace of mind. You just know, like, if anything ever happens, even if it's just a storm, right? People are dealing with this hurricane in Texas, Beryl, and flooding. They're dealing with it today, right now, right? It's hitting the coast of Texas, right? So just have that peace of mind. Have a generator and have your gas tanks filled up, your water tanks filled up, so you are ready in case they do something big, right? And they're warning the private industry that something might happen to them. And something to think about too, all right, I just thought about this, is that if they're able to gain access to these inverters, which we were talking about earlier, which are connected to the internet through monitoring equipment and monitoring software, if they're able to connect it and take over, then they could possibly also, it's not just cutting off the power, okay, that they could do, they also could ramp it up and overcharge the batteries and create an overload into the batteries, overheating them, and potentially cause them to catch on fire or even explode. Right? So that's something to think about as well, is that, and this could happen all the way down from a residential level. Say everyone has this inverter, this type of inverter, right? It's very common. They did a big install. Everyone like they had a big grant program. Everyone in this neighborhood has these solar panels, and they all have the same kind and the same inverter. Well, this inverter was compromised, and they are able to get into it and overcharge the batteries as well. It's not just cutting it off, they can overload them too, creating a massive fire or even explosion in a residential area with multiple homes, a single home. They could target individual homes, could target dozens of homes, thousands of homes. They're talking about this program, the FBI in DC, that they're trying to put solar on 250,000 homes right now, and they're saying that that program is potentially vulnerable. Okay, so that's another thing to think about too, much less a massive solar field or solar array, wind field. They could take over the battery systems there and cause massive fires or explosions too on a major scale. So something to think about as well. It could go both ways. They could cut it off, or they could overload it and then cut it off because of the damage. Now that might be the play anyways, right? Because now the equipment is just damaged and destroyed and has to be replaced, right? And this actually happened in 2019. All right, this is part of this memo that they put out. They revealed in 2019 a private company which operates solar assets in the United States lost visibility into approximately 500 megawatts of its wind and photovoltaic sites in California, Utah, and Wyoming as a result of the denial of service attack that exploited an unpatched firewall. It says, while it was unclear if this specific incident was a deliberate cyber attack targeting this specific company, the incident highlighted the risk posed by a security posture that relies on outdated software. All right, so they did a denial of service attack on an exploited unpatched firewall. It could be any little thing like this that they can use to get into a backdoor for these companies. 500 megawatts was shut off California, Utah, and Wyoming of power, right? That's a lot of power. So let me know what you guys think about this, and just make sure you're prepared, you're ready, you have your food preps, right? You have your tanks filled, you have your generator, water, gas, all these things, water filters, right? Air filters for your home, for your AC, and your homestead as well. Make sure you're getting prepared in your homestead, because those preps, they could run out one day if things go on long enough. We don't know, right? We could see EMP-like events. We've seen stories about this multiple times just in the past few months, that EMP weapons are being deployed and developed and are entering into the battle space, the active battle space and conversation geopolitically right now, right? They keep bringing up that there could be a EMP space weapon. You remember that a few months ago? That could be detonated over the United States. That would disrupt power grids. That would disrupt electronics because of a very similar concept. The power grids and electronics, the power lines, which are high up in the air mostly and very electrically conductive, they would absorb a lot of the electromagnetic radiation that was coming down from these EMP weapons, and it would overload the grid with electromagnetic radiation and electricity, essentially, and damage the grid and the power lines and the inverters and all the equipment, the transformers, the substations, right? All these things would have major damage from a EMP event as well, right? So it's just something in the cards. Not saying that's going to happen, right? But they have been. It used to be a very obscure thing. It's only like people that are prepping or getting prepared are really thinking about this. But you remember just a few months ago that congressman came out and said there's a EMP space nuke, that could be over America right now, right, and being deployed. So make sure you guys are getting prepared, getting ready. Hope you guys have big blessings for your life, your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.